Hello student, this is Pallav, your host, and you are watching Pallav classes. In this video we will discuss macroeconomic class 12th, determination of income and employment, chapter 3, volume 1. In this video we will discuss consumption function and propensity to consume. See the very important topic, that is consumption function. Listen, to explain the consumption function, firstly we should know and we will define what is consumption expenditure. The proportion of the income which is spent on the purchase of goods and services at same level of income is called consumption expenditure. So what is consumption expenditure? It is that percentage, that proportion of income, or that income which is spent on the purchase of goods and services. Now the second thing which we explain in order to explain the consumption function is base of consumption function. When I say base of consumption function, it means which principle is being used on the consumption function. Remember one thing, J.M. Keynes propounded the fundamental psychological law of consumption, which forms the base for the consumption function, which forms the foundation for the consumption function. According to Keynes, when the income increases, the consumption expenditure also increases, but by a small amount. The law implies that there is a tendency on the part of the people to spend on consumption less than their full increase in income. In a very simple word, we can say that firstly, the consumption is more and the income is less, but with the increase in income, the change in income, change in consumption decrease and the change in income increases. Initially, change in income is less and the change in consumption is more, but later on what happens? Change in income increases and the change in consumption decreases. Why? Because the people are having the tendency to save the money for the future. So this is the base for the consumption function. So here accordingly the Keynes says, when the income increase, the consumption expenditure decreases. Why the consumption expenditure decrease with the increase in income? Because people start saving the money for the future. Now let us see what is consumption function. The consumption function exhibits the relationship between consumption and the income. It can be represented by C is equal to Fy. Here C means consumption, F means functional relationship, and Y means income. Let us see, the consumption function can be represented by the following equation. The consumption function can be explained with this equation, that is autonomous consumption plus induced consumption. C means consumption, Y means level of income, C bar means autonomous consumption. Listen here, small c means marginal propensity to consume. When I say marginal propensity to consume, what it means? It means every consumer fixes the limit on his income. It means that this limit might be constant, and this limit is greater than 1 but is less than greater than 0 but less than 1. So what is MPC? That is a limit, that is a marginal propensity to consume. It means that the consumption on different level of income, or degree of consumption on different level of income. The consumption is upward sloping and it start on the axis Y. Why it start from the axis Y? Because if the income is 0, there might be some consumption, and this, when the income is 0, whatever be the consumption is called autonomous consumption. The slope of the consumption, this slope totally depends upon MPC or small c. Why? Because autonomous consumption is always constant. So the slope of this consumption totally depends upon induced consumption, that is MPC. When I say induced consumption, it means CY. Marginal propensity to consume is positive and its value ranges between 0 and 1. So induced consumption is being derived from MPC. Let us see the consumption schedule. We can say that income is 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Autonomous consumption is constant 10, 10, 10. And induced consumption is MPC Y. It means fixed percentage on income. So what is induced consumption? Induced consumption is fixed percentage of consumption on income. And C means autonomous plus induced consumption. Fixed percentage is 0.5, that is MPC is 0.5. So let us see. When the income is 0, autonomous consumption is 10. Induced consumption becomes 0 because 0.5 multiplied by 0 is equal to 0. Total consumption will becomes 10 plus 0 is equal to 10. When the income is 10, autonomous consumption is 10. Induced consumption becomes 0.5 multiplied by 10 is equal to 5. Total consumption becomes 15 and so on. Remember one thing, when the income is equal to total consumption, that is called break-even point. Remember one thing, this is called the break-even point. Why? Because at this point the income and the consumption is equal. You see, when I say consumption, it means total consumption. Before the break-even point, we can say that income is less and the consumption is more. Income 0, consumption 10. Income 10, consumption 15. So we can say that before the break-even point, income is less but the consumption is more. But after the break-even point, what we can see, income is 30, consumption is 25. So we can say that after the break-even point, income is more and the consumption is less. The reason is keen psychological law of consumption. What it means after the break-even point, the people develop the desire of saving the money for the future. So accordingly, what happens? After the break-even point, income increases but the consumption decreases. With the increase in income, the consumption starts falling down. Now try to see the same thing through the schedule. This C represents the consumption function, consumption. This is the income. Try to explain the consumption function through the graph. This 45-degree line represents the income. This line represents the consumption. This is the sum total of autonomous plus induced consumption. It always starts from the y-axis. Why? Because when the income is 0, there might be some consumption. This K is the break-even point because at this point, income and consumption is equal. Let us see the important observation. In the graph, 45-degree line is the income line. C is the consumption curve which starts from y-axis. Even when the income is 0, there is some consumption. The point at which consumption is equal to income is called break-even point, that is K, that we have seen. Before break-even point, there is dis-saving. Before there is break-even point, there is dis-saving. When I say dis-saving, what it means income is less but the consumption is there. To meet out the consumption, what the people will do, they borrow the money from the market. So before the break-even point, we are having dis-saving. And after the break-even point, that is after this point, we can say there is saving. So after this point, we are having saving. It means that the income is more and the consumption is less. It means we don't have to borrow the money. We can think of saving the money. Before this point, we are having this saving. Why? Because we can't think of saving. We have to take the loan from the market to meet out the consumption. Now let us see the propensity to consume. It shows the amount of consumption corresponding to different level of income. So what is propensity to consume? It means the consumption at different level of income is called propensity to consume. There are two ways of representing propensity to consume. How many ways do we have to present propensity to consume? Two ways are there. The first one is average propensity to consume and the second one is marginal propensity to consume. We discuss the average propensity to consume first. Let us see the meaning. When the propensity to consume is represented in aggregate terms, when the propensity to consume is represented in total terms, it is called APC. It is the level of consumption with the income. It means what should be the consumption at the income. It means total consumption at total income. It's called average propensity to consume. It can be represented as consumption divided by income. Let us see the features. When with the increase in income, APC decrease because the keen psychological law of consumption. The first feature is with the increase in income, APC decrease. Why? Because of keen psychological law of consumption. Second one is at zero level of income. What I said? At zero level of income, APC becomes infinity. Mathematically, we can say anything divided by zero is infinity, but theoretically we can say that the APC becomes infinity. Why APC becomes infinity? Because the minimum consumption vary from person to person. We cannot even say the fixed percentage as the minimum consumption, because it vary from person to person. Try to see it through the graph. This is the consumption. Try to find out APC at the point B. At the point B, average propensity to consume is OP divided by OQ. So to find out APC at the point B, it should be OP divided by OQ. Now try to find out the marginal propensity to consume. Let us see the meaning first. When the propensity to consume is represented in proportionate terms, it is called MPC. It is the proportionate change in consumption with respect to proportionate change in income. Let us see how we can represent it. MPC is equal to delta C upon delta Y. Delta C means change in consumption, delta Y means change in income. Let us see the features. It is constant throughout the level of disposable income. When I say constant throughout the level of disposable income, it means every person fixes the limit. With the increase in income, the fixed percentage the person will spend and the leftover he will save. The next is value. The MPC lies in between 0 and 1. The next is MPC is always less than APC. Remember one thing, the slope of the consumption curve totally depends upon MPC. Let us see the shape. To find out the MPC at the point B, we can calculate the MPC at the point B is delta C divided by delta Q. Here the delta C is AP and delta Q is Q1Q. So here the MPC at the point B is AP Q1Q. That's all I have in this video. Thanks for watching. God bless you all. Dear subscribers, if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe the channel and don't forget to press the bell icon so that whenever I upload the new video, you get the notification.